The way we proposed it to the client was we're building a choose your own adventure ecosystem with email, SMS, which directly ties in web, media, social by directing to those. And they're like, well, choose your own adventure. That sounds good. What do you mean? And I'm like, you know, again, it's the same things we've been doing for 20 years: segmentation, social cues, social listening, and bringing all that data into one place and being able to get it. And then building content around the buckets of things that we see, the pain points, the hurdles. But also, aside from that, I think we always focus too much on the negatives. How do we fix and find gaps? You also have to fine tune what works. You have to
Right.
continually do those things. And that's where, unless you have a follow up there, continuing with this project for the universal email ecosystem for this client is the emotional side. And this is where the consumer gets tied into it. Yeah, I mean, I think my life in general has kind of brought me to CX. Prior to what I call my professional career in advertising and marketing, although still during my time of school and even shortly after school, I was a professional athlete. So I dealt with not only competing and dealing with brands on a personal level, but also being a representative of those brands to people on a personal level and talking to people daily and those things. So I think some of that definitely fashioned into who I am from a customer experience. And I don't know. I think I heard it from a mentor of mine that was talking about kind of customer experience from Eastern and Western cultures.
Mm.
And in Western culture, customer experience leans towards the individual. Unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it. And the East values that collective. It's about the ecosystem around you, for lack of a better word. And that's what we are. As humans, we live in an ecosystem. As marketers, we produce in an ecosystem. So if we treat like that, so I think it was part of my life. But as far as professionally, I went to school to be a graphic artist. I've been a graphic artist, a creative director, an art director, marketing director, and then I've been an account director as I am now. I've even been a senior project manager in that time. So I've kind of worked internally within the silos or the departments, however you want to call them. But they are all silos. And no matter, every company thrives to be not siloed, but we're all still siloed to a degree. And that's the biggest issue. You have to kind of work together. You can be siloed. You got to have your departments. That's a financial thing. That's how companies, work. They got to break it down so they can break down how they charge and those sorts of things. And of course, that's something that has to come into factor. But if those things don't work as a symbiotic unit, then you're not getting those message out to your customer and the consumer and the human. I rather like customer. I think is an outdated term these days. I like to say human because that's what we are. We're humans and we have emotions and reactions. So I think my life in general just kind of brought me to CX. Now working in marketing and advertising, it was a kind of a natural thing. And I when I was a designer, I still looked at I guess I looked at the sunset and worked towards sunrise, if that makes sense. So like I'd look at the end of the day and
Hmm.
try to get back to the beginning of like, hey, I know we're starting at sunrise, but what is the outcome for the consumer? What are we trying to achieve? And right there is already thinking on a customer experience level, in my opinion. I just didn't know, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that there was this tie together between making sure the messaging and the imaging and the operational goals were all tied together. So I think it was just naturally there. And then through time and fortunately through good leaders and good mentors that I've had in this industry that have kind of given me nudges, kind of like what we do when we're messaging. You're talking with somebody about your brand and you send them the little SMS nudge just to get them a little nudge, get them in the right direction. Fortunately, I had people again in my career showing me customer experience from that level of like, hey, you know what? You're really good at what you do, but have you looked at this other avenue over here? So I think that's that comes
Well,
from.
what a killer intro, Dave. I mean, normally I would have to, set things up a bit more, but you just nailed it. I want to say everybody, welcome to the CX Files podcast. Dave has just warmed us up here for great conversation. I want to give you a little bit background about Dave. He is currently the account director, customer experience at GSD&M. He brings a creative background that he's been explaining already. He's got over 20 years of successful results in cross-functional teams, always focused on the customer to drive growth and retention. And his creative background includes going to school as a graphic artist. He's had experiences in the advertising and marketing fields. He brings that perspective to CX, and it's really valuable, I think. And he's also built customer journeys that reach over 15 million people annually for some of the largest companies at the forefront of their industry, which we can't and will not mention in this episode. But Dave, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
You have had a different entry point to CX, and what has that given you? What has that helped you to see that you think maybe other people have not noticed or maybe are just starting to notice?
I mean, I think I come in unbiased to any preface in customer experience because I wasn't trained in customer experience. It's a natural, I'm an empathetic person. So to me, customer experience is a natural thing. As I was saying in the introduction, I think that Eastern societies, and this was something that a mentor pointed out to me, I think the Eastern societies look more at the collective, and it's more of this symbiotic thing. We all work together. We all play a part in this thing, and that's just how I operate. So I come in with, I won't say fresh eyes because I'm over 50 years old. In many people's cases, I'm probably an old soul, more to speak. But I come in with fresh eyes in the fact that I don't have these biases that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years from a customer experience standpoint. And again, I've worked in the creative realm. I've worked on the operations side. I've worked on the account side. I've worked at call centers. I've worked with call centers from a vendor standpoint, from a consumer standpoint, and from an operational standpoint. So I think I see things holistically, and I'm not saying I think there are plenty of examples of people out there, and really the younger generation, I think millennials and Gen Alphas and stuff probably see it better than we do because they were kind of born into technology. They've had technology around since they were born. I'm a Gen Xer. I feel fortunate, and I think that's what has helped me sustain is that I've lived through the creation of these things. And so the curious state and nature in me, something that my company, one of our pillars at our company is curiosity. That state of curiousness is what's helped me, I guess. And so I think naturally I try not to listen to what was around 30 years ago because 30 years ago the technology we use today wasn't around. So I think that maybe that's the advantage. I really don't know. I think it kind of exudes. I'm try to live life as every experience is an experience, and therefore it just kind of transfers over to work as well.
I hear that. I think that there's a few themes that you've been touching on, sort of this idea of the inevitable siloing, and also the value of taking a sort of a universal, an ecosystem, a sort of overall view. And I think that's such an important conversation. It's one that I've been hearing more and more recently. This idea that, and I want to get your thoughts on this idea that like the customer experiences CX as one thing.
Yeah.
The human, to
Yeah.
use your term, the human
Yeah. Yeah.
experiences it as one thing. But internally, we see our little corner of our team and our department. And what do you think people can do to kind of overcome that and sort of deliver a comprehensive thing for the customer, for the human?
I mean, I think that's great that you ask. And I actually, I wrote some notes in preparing for this, and I wrote down and highlighted this one thing is that I think the biggest thing is to remember that customers don't experience brands in channels. they experience brands in moments. You know what I'm saying? They don't see the brand in the media channel or the email channel or the SMS channel as we do internally. They see it as the entire ecosystem of like, oh, I was in there and I was going to buy that shirt and those pants and those shoes, and then I left because my mom called, and then I went to dinner and blah, blah, blah. And wow, I'm getting now it's, the next morning and I just got an SMS that reminded me, hey, do you remember you were going to buy that outfit? It's being predictive too. It's that predictive thinking of like not just trying, it really gets into what we were going to talk about, and the audience hasn't heard yet, but a methodology that I came up with, which is the 3 R's and the 4 E's. And I think, the 3 R's, that's kind of the structural clarity that you need to build. And then the 4 E's becomes that the emotional alignment of everything. And kind of to jump into that a little bit more, the 3 R's for me are reduce, remove, and reward. Now I know that reduce and remove sound very similar, but they're actually different. It might be micro ways that they're different, but the reduce is, removing extra steps, shortening forms, simplifying navigation on your website, reducing CTAs. Instead of having 3 CTAs in an email, you have 1 main CTA, and maybe you hyperlink things that just provide educational, nurturing, assurances, those sorts of things. And then, by reducing, you're cleaning up, and then you get rid of outdated verification steps or approval steps or duplicated questions. You might send 3 emails that basically ask the same 3 questions, and unless you're trying to get an MPS or a CSAT score, and it's, each of those are asking the same questions at different parts of the journey to kind of see where their engagement is, you're just adding redundancies that cause frustrations, that cause roadblocks, that cause, again, abandoned carts. Things like that, where, maybe the abandoned cart was caused by a phone call from your mom, or maybe it was because once it got into your bucket, you realized that shirt was $54 and you had clicked on an ad for $34 that was outdated. So removing those things. And then the 3rd R almost happens because of the first 2. By removing and reducing, you are therefore rewarding. Because when I say reward, I don't mean rewarding with a discount. I mean, those things come, the seasonal discounts, things like that. But the reward for me is providing the reassurance, the personalized next steps, acknowledging the progress, and making sure that those next steps, the processes, are emotionally grounded to what the person, the human, is feeling. You want to reward that curiosity with progress and engagement. One thing I think about that we get into, actually, I'll come back to that because we'll get through the E's as well. Because I mean, I could go into so many tangents, and this is part of my problem as a customer experience person, as I go off onto so many other things. But so those are the 3 R's. Again, reduce, remove, reward. Again, if you don't reduce and remove, you can't reward them with simplified tasks and getting to their solution. What is their pain point? That's essentially, we're trying to find these pain points in the world these days and make those not pain points, to make it a symbiotic conversation, essentially. Not, again, we shouldn't be speaking in media or social. We should be speaking in conversational tasks. These are all little pieces of conversation that give us the solution for the consumer.
Absolutely.
And that's where you move into, as I said, the emotional alignment, or my 4 E's, and that's easy.
Let me pause you.
Okay.
Right
yeah,
here. Sorry.
Absolutely.
I want to get, but I'm totally with you. I'm totally engaged. But I want to get a story from you. I want to hear some example, and you could leave names out. But is there a case or a time when you took this approach and you could immediately tell that there was like an emotional resonance, an emotional result, as well as a tangible one?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could go back to my current client that I started with 5 years ago. And when I came on, I came on to look at their email, SMS, push ecosystem in alignment with, what I will say is with this client, it's a little different, human being. So a little bit of a shift there in the fact, but coming in, I said, well, what's your email ecosystem like? What's your SMS like? Where are we at? How do we direct people to the call center? And the way that was happening at the time was events, the website, and very limited email. And honestly, the emails were more automated transactions for completing an application, for starting but not completing an application. And I was like, well, here's the lowest cherry. In this case, it wasn't reducing and removing things. It was, how do we create efficiencies and add in a breadth of information? And obviously email, SMS are easy, especially now that we're in 2020s. This is something every company should have. And so that was the first thing. And so we build an ecosystem. Well, initially that was built on campaigns, needs of the client. And that was the first 2 years. Well, then probably my ADHD and a little bit of OCD at times was like, well, we have these campaigns, everything seems disconjointed. This isn't a good customer experience. Like, I know these are 5 different career paths, but all these people have crossover, these kind of things. So then it's start looking at it and being, hey, how can I reduce, in this case, it was internal friction. And I will start this statement actually with saying that I think whether it be your call center, your marketing and advertising teams, your customer is your internal solution. So what I mean by that is at your call center, what your call center knows is the knowledge your customer gets. How your call center treats and acts is how your consumer or human reacts and decides their feeling is about your brand. So if your internal teams aren't all on the same page and working together, you'll never get the consumer in. So you got to reduce those things. You got to reduce the friction. And by doing that, you look at the system altogether and not just, hey, we're going to introduce email and SMS, but how is the system currently working? Where is our media efforts going to? Where are our website efforts going to? And now how can I take those little pieces of media and okay, so you're running 15 social media posts. Can we get 2 of those posts that direct towards subscribe for email? Now your media commercial, can you get, visit and subscribe for updates in find text on a media ad? Let's put, go and subscribe for more updates, getting the things that we know people have questions out there. And again, posing it around the things they need answers to and directing them to a place where they give us a little bit of information. And we take that information and we help grow a relationship. So now you've reduced friction because you've offered them multiple doorways to enter the process and get the answers, get the solutions, get the education. Now, as those things run, you're looking at the removing of processes and where can we take out some of these things? What's not working? What's working? That's a constant. So again, the 3 E's and the 4 E's, or the 3 R's and the 4 E's are a constant. They're not like you do this at the beginning and then you're good. It's everything is live, especially today in marketing. Everything is live. So it's constantly going through. So remove. And then by doing this stuff and constantly looking at your journeys and looking at the data and being able to see where your humans are, you can adjust and you can better provide content and answers and education for them. So, we did that with the ecosystem, and now we just recently launched a new, this may sound cheesy to those of us in the industry, but the way we proposed it to the client was we're building a choose your own adventure ecosystem with email, SMS, which directly ties in web, media, social, by directing to those. And they're like, well, choose your own adventure. That sounds good. What do you mean? And I'm like, again, it's the same things we've been doing for 20 years, segmentation, social cues, social listening, and bringing all that data into one place and being able to get it. And then building content around the buckets of things that we see, the pain points, the hurdles. But also, aside from that, I think we always focus too much on the negatives. How do we fix and find gaps? you also have to fine tune what works. You have to
Right.
continually do those things. And that's where, unless you have a follow up there, continuing with this project for the universal email ecosystem for this client is the emotional side. And this is where the consumer gets tied into it, and that's the 4 E's. And that's make it easy, make it efficient, make it empathetic, as I've been saying off over and over. And then very close, but very different, is make it emotionally resonant. And what do I mean by that? Make instructions clear. Make every next step obvious. Remove the guessing from a client, or not a client, from a consumer. Take mental strain off of them. I mean, if you think about it, as advertisers and marketers, we're taught to write between a 6th and an 8th grade level because it's what the majority comprehends and digests that better, myself included. I want it simple. I want it concise. Give me the TLDR. Let's be honest, right? I mean, give me that's what we all want.
Yeah.
I think last year's metrics were you get 3 to 5 seconds to hold somebody's attention. I mean, that's a no time. No time
Yeah.
at all. So
Absolutely.
you want to make things clear and obvious, and then of course efficient. Respect their time. Again, that all these things closely align. But if what you'll notice in my method is each thing stacks on the next, that stacks on the next, that completes. Without one, you don't get to that next step. So efficient, remove time, automate the boring, accelerate the meaningful. Those things. When you create freedom for a consumer, they become happier with you. They don't remember the things you tell them, but they remember how you make them feel.
Absolutely.
And that's the empathy part. Design from an emotional starting point. Think about the customer. Are they confused? Are they curious? Are they anxious, helpful, skeptical? If they're confused, what do we want to do? We want to provide them answers and clarity. If they're anxious, we want to provide a sense of calm. And again, clarity. We want to provide them with something that goes off the ledge. Here's your answer. Again, if they're hopeful, give them reasons for being hopeful, to be more hopeful, and curious. This is my favorite one. This is how you expand your offering to your people. If they're curious, provide them options. Choose your own adventure. If you're Timberland, everyone knows you sell boots. But if you've got a highly engaged person that's curious, show them your dress shoes. Show them your winter coats. Show them your shirts, your outdoor rugged wear. Introduce them to those via email. That's getting empathetic. That's reading their thoughts. And then again, emotionally resonant is exactly the answer for the empathy that I just gave you. If they're feeling anxious, provide clarity. If they're curious, provide options. If they're skeptical, again, clarity. Clarity is a big one. Most people really just need the clarity of knowing what your product is and why it does it. Again, people in the long run, people don't remember what we told them. They remember how they felt about their interactions with you, and that's what makes them a loyalist.
That is an incredible collection of thoughts that just it does tie together and it does stack like you're saying. And I think you're bringing a marketing point of view to CX, which is so valuable because it is part of CX. It is part of support, right? Whether support people think about it or not, if you're responding to a problem that a customer has, all of these same things apply and can extend the scope. That can expand the space that support holds.
Yeah.
So it's not I'm solving problems that come in, it's I'm understanding the emotion. I'm
Right.
understanding the journey that people are on. I'm giving them more options. We automate the boring stuff, and then I can do this empathetic piece. I can sort of be like a consultant and give them product recommendations. You can do all these other things when it's stacked properly. And so I wanted to switch gears a little bit and sort of heading towards the end of the episode here. I wanted to ask you about this idea of make art, not content. And in the context, this could be, for a marketing context, but also in the support world, you know, don't just think of like a templated response as the end of your job, the end of an interaction. Think of like, how can I give this person some inspiration? How can I give this person something unique? Tapping into emotion. What do you think about that idea of like make art, not content?
I think I would have sworn you stole that from something I said somewhere, because I honestly,
I
that
did
is
steal it. So
okay.
there's a YouTube
Fair,
channel. There's a YouTube channel
fair.
called Make Art Not
Make
Content. But
art, not
anyway,
content. But no, but that is, I think, and maybe it's my creative background. Maybe it's the fact that I was a professional athlete in a non-mainstream sport.
we got to hear about
But
that too.
but
What was your sport?
I rode BMX X Games style bike riding, ramps
Oh,
and street and stuff. So,
all right, that's
you
awesome.
know, my head has always thought outside of the box, so to
Sure.
speak.
Yeah.
And to me, creating content, I mean, my mother was an English teacher, and she still, again, plus 50-year-old here, still gets corrected by his 80-year-old mother for
Me
his
too.
English. I'm not a writer. I'm not a content person. I can come up with gimmicks and not gimmicks, but catchphrases, things like that, you know, but the words don't do anything if they're not enveloped in a moment or a feeling. And that to me is the art, because you can describe a feeling to somebody, but how do you make them feel a
Right.
feeling?
Right.
How do you
Right.
make
Right.
them feel a certain way? You do that through creating, to steal from my company, you do that through creating first and only moments. You
Hmm.
create something that no one else has done, but the consumer is fully invested because it's everything they wanted. It's everything they needed. You come into, it's just a matter of, you have to grab, there we go. That's the way to say it. It's the empathy.
Hmm.
If you put empathy into it, you're then creating art, not content, and you're creating emotion and movements.
Hmm.
Look at Nike. I mean, look at Nike. They don't create content. They create moments in sporting history. If
Yeah.
you think about it, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but this is such a great point for people. And empathy might feel kind of like a wishy-washy thing on the surface, but I think the message I'm getting here is that you can be tactical about it. You
Yeah,
can categorize, you can systematize, and you can still have the authenticity and still meet people where they are. You can let them choose their own adventure and follow them on that journey and support them on it. It doesn't have to be this siloed, blocky, friction-filled, sterile,
right.
emotionless thing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dave, this has been a great conversation. If people want to get in touch with Dave, or if they want to reach out, it's it's Dave is on LinkedIn, Dayv Wilson-Widdecombe, and his name and all of his details will be in the description. This has been the CX Files podcast, and thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. I look forward to you and I having more conversations off the camera and on the camera. But thanks again for your time today. I appreciate you taking some time.
All right, we'll see you all next time.
Bye, everybody.